Hey everyone, this is Michael again, and welcome to the AEW Dynamite review. Dynamite tonight was from the Rogers Arena in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. And Dynamite tonight, I thought the show was just very mid, in my opinion. I have to say it was better than Monday Night Raw, but we all know everything is better than Monday Night Raw. We know AEW is better than Monday Night Raw. But still, the show was very mid tonight. But tonight kicked off the Blind Eliminator Tag Team Tournament quarterfinals. We had Darby Allin and Orange Cassidy versus Keith Lee and Swerve Strickland in the first quarterfinals match in the Blind Eliminator Tag Team Tournament. Keith Lee and Swerve teaming up, tonight in a while. We all know about their feud there. We had the Acclaimed and Billy Gunn. They end up taking on the Bollywood Boyz and the Blade. We had the second match in the quarterfinals in the Blind Eliminator Tag Team Tournament. It was MJF and Adam Cole versus The Butcher and Matt Menard. We had the Women's Owen Hart Foundation Tournament quarterfinal match where it was Ruby Soho versus Dr. Britt Baker, DMD. And in the main event, it was Kenny Omega versus Wheeler Yuta. Overall, Dynamite tonight, like I said, was a very mid show. It felt more like a 2-hour Rampage than a Dynamite tonight, in my opinion. But before I get into the review, if you guys haven't checked out my previous videos, did a movie hunting video on Monday where I went to the Salvation Army, picked up some stuff there, DVDs. And of course, the Monday Night Raw review is up. And then yesterday, I did a 4th of July live stream. So, check out those videos, if you guys haven't seen them. If you guys joined me for the 4th of July live stream last night, thank you for joining in. It was a lot of fun. And I like interacting with you guys. But thank you all for, coming into the stream. Anybody that, came in, really appreciate that. Really appreciate you all, coming in there, having fun. But yeah, so anyways, I'm going to take a sip of my Mountain Dew Code Red. And let's start the review. Dynamite opened up tonight with the Blind Eliminator Tag Team Tournament quarterfinals match. Darby Allin and Orange Cassidy versus Keith Lee and Swerve Strickland. Now, before the match, we went backstage and we saw Renee Paquette and Keith Lee, where Keith Lee was confronted by Darby Allin. Darby Allin ended up bringing up the issues between Keith Lee and Swerve Strickland. Obviously, we all know about the issues, Keith Lee and Swerve, and how that all played out. So, pretty much that, was basically that. And then we went to ringside. Orange Cassidy ended up making his way out to the ring. So Orange Cassidy opened up Dynamite again. I'm sick and tired of seeing Orange Cassidy open up Dynamite, almost every single week. He's Tony Khan's golden boy. So Tony Khan in his mind, he's probably like, oh, how should I start off Dynamite this week? Oh, I know. We'll put my favorite golden boy to open the show, Mr. Orange Cassidy, the international champion. So Orange Cassidy made his way out, and out came Darby Allin. Darby Allin ended up skating on down the ramp on his skateboard. And then Swerve Strickland came out to the stage. Of course, he came out along with his guys in the Mogul Embassy. So we end up getting a recap of the issues between Swerve and Keith Lee. So we saw all that. So we had Keith Lee end up making his way out. Keith Lee walked out and he didn't eye Swerve Strickland. So Swerve was accompanied by Prince Nana down to the ring. And the match on the way, which the match itself, it was a pretty good match here. Match started off with Darby Allin and Keith Lee. Darby ended up slapping Keith Lee. Keith Lee threw Darby Allin into the opposite corner. Keith Lee ended up poisoning Darby up for the Supernova, but Darby ended up escaping, and he made the tag to Orange Cassidy. So Orange Cassidy ended up, taking down Keith Lee. So Keith Lee ended up staring the International Champion down, and Keith Lee ended up hitting a double hand chop onto Orange Cassidy, which that was a loud double hand chop to Cassidy from Keith Lee. So that double hand chop sent Orange Cassidy down hard to the canvas. Cassidy then retreated to the corner, and he was asking Keith Lee to wait. And then Orange Cassidy put his hands in his pockets, and then Keith Lee responded with another double chop to Orange Cassidy, which he ended up dropping Orange Cassidy onto his chest, onto Keith Lee's chest. And then Orange Cassidy ended up falling down to the canvas. Orange Cassidy got back to his feet. He backed away toward the corner. Darby Allin ended up getting a blind tag in. And so we had Darby Allin and Orange Cassidy end up double teaming on Keith Lee. They end up sending Keith Lee into the corner. Swerve ended up getting the blind tag. So Swerve ended up delivering some offense on Darby Allin. He sent Darby Allin into the corner. Swerve then ended up hitting an uppercut from the second rope onto Darby Allin. Swerve then ended up going back to work on Darby Allin because, he was posing to the crowd and he had a smirk on his face. So Swerve ended up sending Darby Allin into the corner. He then whipped Darby Allin into the opposite corner hard. So we had Darby Allin end up going through the ropes to the outside. And then Dynamite went to commercial, so he had the picture-in-picture. So, during the picture-in-picture, Swerve continued his attack on Darby Allin. Darby Allin ended up hitting a reverse DDT. Darby ended up getting a tag to Orange Cassidy. And so Darby and Orange Cassidy end up double teaming on Swerve. So then, as Dynamite came back from the commercial, we had Swerve end up taking in Keith Lee. So Darby Allin ended up taking in Orange Cassidy. Keith Lee ended up going after Orange Cassidy. Swerve ended up going after Darby on the outside. And we had Swerve trapping Darby Allin under the steel ring steps. So we had Orange Cassidy end up catching Swerve with a dive through the ropes. Keith Lee ended up waiting for him on the outside. Orange Cassidy ended up locking in a sleeper hold. Keith Lee then made his way back into the ring, and he made his way up the steel ring steps, which caused damage to Darby Allin, because Darby Allin was, of course, trapped under the steel ring steps, which that had to hurt. Now you can tell how huge and how many pounds those steel ring steps are. You tell that they're probably really heavy. So Orange Cassidy ended up going for the Stun Dog Millionaire to Keith Lee, but it was not enough to keep Keith Lee down. So Orange Cassidy ended up hitting a second and third Stun Dog Millionaire, and he followed up with the Code Red. So Orange Cassidy ended up going for the cover on Keith Lee. Swerve leapt off the turnbuckle to break up the pin. Swerve ended up going on the attack on Orange Cassidy. He sent Orange Cassidy into Keith Lee. Orange Cassidy ended up dodging a kick from Swerve, and that ended up hitting Keith Lee instead. So Keith Lee was sent out of the ring. Darby Allin got a tag in. He ended up dropping Swerve with a pin. So there you go. Orange Cassidy and Darby Allin end up winning the match. They are advancing in the Blind Eliminator Tag Team Tournament. Pretty much that was that. But overall, this was a pretty good match, from these teams. We all know, about the issues, like I said, with Keith Lee and Swerve. You had also, like I said, Swerve end up delivering a kick to Keith Lee because Orange Cassidy dodged that kick. So more issues continue with Keith Lee and Swerve Strickland. So then we got a video package, and we got a new addition to the AEW roster. And that guy's name is Nick Wayne. So Nick Wayne is the newest addition to the roster. Not familiar with Nick Wayne, haven't watched any of his matches, but when he makes his, AEW debut, I'll give the guy a chance, and hopefully he's good. So yeah, Nick Wayne is the newest addition. So then we had a recap about what happened between Hook and Jack Perry, this past week. And then it cut to the parking lot where Jack Perry ended up arriving in his car. He ended up saying that he's going to head to Tony Khan's office to demand a shot at Hook for the FTW Championship. So then Jack Perry was blindsided by Hook, and Jack Perry ended up retreating back to the car, and he took off in the car. Hook was angry, and so pretty much that was that. But it looks like that's coming soon. We're going to see Hook versus Jack Perry for the FTW Championship. And I called this, and also my friend Datilla also called this as well. So we both called it. And without a doubt, that match is going to be coming. So will Hook retain the FTW Championship? I would say he will, but it would be a shock if Jack Perry end up being Hook and, winning the FTW Championship. That could be something we're not going to expect if that happens. So, but it should be a good match, with Hook and Jack Perry for the FTW Championship. So then, as Dynamite came back from the commercial, we saw Adam Cole and MJF. They were spending some time together, some bro time, and they went to the gym, and they were training to get ready for their Blind Eliminator Tag Team Tournament match. So, we end up seeing that, but really liked it. This little video package with Adam Cole and MJF, which, happy birthday to Adam Cole Bebe today, which I'll get to that, later on, because they acknowledged Adam Cole's birthday today. So then we had a trios match. It was the Acclaimed and Billy Gunn versus the Bollywood Boyz and the Blade. And pretty much this was basically a squash match here. So the Acclaim end up making their way out along with Billy Gunn. Of course, Max Caster doing his rap. So then the Bollywood Boyz and the Blade were already in the ring. So the match got underway with Billy Gunn and the Blade. Both guys were circling the canvas. The crowd ended up cheering on for Billy Gunn. Billy Gunn locked in the hold on the Blade, which led to a headlock and a shoulder tackle from Billy Gunn to the Blade, which sent the Blade down to the canvas. So we had the Blade end up rolling Billy Gunn up, to which Billy Gunn ended up kicking out. Gunn ended up tagging in Max Caster, and so Caster and Gunn end up double teaming on the Blade. And so Caster ended up going for the cover. The Blade ended up kicking out. Blade ended up making the tag to Harv of the Bollywood Boyz. But Harv and Gorv, I think that's how you pronounce his name, and even the Blade also, they were dropped by Max Caster. And they ended up setting up Harv for the Sesame Timbers. And then Dynamite went to commercial. Then when Dynamite came back from the commercial, the tag was made to Anthony Bowens. The Bollywood Boyz got beaten up by Bowens. Garv ended up sneaking a roll-up on Bowens, to which Bowens ended up kicking out. Bowens then tagged in Billy Gunn. Billy Gunn ended up dropping Garv to the canvas, and then he tagged in Max Caster. Max Caster hit the mic drop on Garv, and he went for the cover. And there you go. The Acclaimed and Billy Gunn ended up winning the match. Post-match, Harley Cameron. She ended up being on the screen, and she was mad about her rapping skills being cut off. And she had promising something big in the form of a video next week. Oh, great. Thank you, Harley Cameron, for letting me know when to change the channel when that happens. So Billy Gunn took the mic. She ended up letting Harley Cameron know that he has 2 words for her. Suck it. So pretty much that was basically that. But I'm like, oh, Billy Gunn saying suck it on AEW when that saying is possibly copyrighted by WWE. But who cares about this Harley Cameron QTV shit? It is awful. It's channel changing garbage. QTV. It's something that you would see on Rampage. But overall, squash match it was with the Acclaimed of Billy Gunn, the Bollywood Boyz, and the Blade. And then we saw video package on Eddie Kingston. Congrats to Eddie Kingston because he ended up winning the New Japan Strong Openweight Championship earlier today. And he still faces some major issues with Jon Moxley. So pretty much that was basically that. Like I said, congrats to Eddie Kingston winning the New Japan Strong Openweight Championship. And then commentary hyped up Blood and Guts, which is taking place on July 19th at the TD Garden in Boston. And it's going to be the Blackpool Combat Club versus the Elite. So it was made official. Really looking forward to it. They are going to deliver. So it's going to be chaos with the Elite and the Blackpool Combat Club in Blood and Guts. So then we saw Renee Paquette. Renee Paquette and RJ City were backstage with Matt Hardy. There was a tumbler there, and they're pulling a name out of the tumbler who Matt Hardy's tag team partner will be in a match on Rampage this Friday. It's going to be Rampage 100 on Friday. 100 shows of Rampage already. So the name was pulled out of the tumbler. So Matt Hardy is going to be teaming with Jeff Jarrett. Matt Hardy was furious about that, and he was like, oh, I hate Jeff Jarrett. And then Dynamite went to commercial. God. Are we all sick of Jeff Jarrett on TV? Why is this guy getting such a big push than anyone else on the AEW roster? God. So then we had Chris Jericho. Chris Jericho came out and they ended up announcing him as the Wizard, Chris Jericho, because, of course, he is a wizard. I don't know if you all knew that. Chris Jericho is a wizard. So Jericho made his way out. We got a recap of the tag team match last week. So Jericho got on the mic. He ended up giving the crowd credit for being so loud. And he was coming off as a babyface here. You know, this wasn't heel Jericho here. This was babyface Jericho. So, yeah, smirk on his face as he watched the crowd sing along to Judas. So Jericho ended up saying it's a little bittersweet for him. And the crowd was then chanting Jericho's name. So Jericho then addressed the big losses that he's had over the past couple of months. He ended up saying that it might be time to reevaluate a few things and make a couple changes. So Jericho was telling us this here because the province of Alberta is the perfect place, seeing as it's where he started his career. So Jericho talked up his training in Calgary with Stu Hart, which got a mixed reaction from the crowd. The crowd was actually booing when Jericho mentioned Stu Hart. He was like, come on, you're booing Stu Hart. Jericho then talked about his early career, and he ended up saying that he drove up and down the 2 highway and the various landmarks, remembering what it was like when he first started wrestling. Jericho ended up saying that he remembers the passion of when wrestling was everything to him. And he remembered that wrestling is still everything to him. Jericho ended up saying that he feels resurrected. He ended up saying that it's time to become the best version of Jericho ever. So then Jericho got interrupted by Don Callis. Don Callis came out, boos from the crowd. Callis got into the ring, and as Don Callis started to speak, he got loud boos from the crowd. So we had Don Callis end up talking to Jericho about all those years ago, about him main eventing the Tokyo Dome against Kenny Omega. Callis ended up telling Jericho, without that match, these fans wouldn't be here right now, nor would Jericho be without his idea. Jericho ended up saying that it's hard to hear what Don Callis is saying with all the boos, because when Callis was saying that, the boos were still, were still going in the arena from the fans. So he ended up talking about Callis' career in 2015 before coming back to pro wrestling, and Jericho was the one that brought Don Callis back to pro wrestling. He ended up saying Don Callis has become bigger and more powerful than ever. Jericho ended up saying that without him, Don might not be here. So Don Callis ended up saying that he agrees and that the two of them make history. Don Callis ended up saying that he was betrayed by Kenny Omega and that he has been building a family revolved around trust. Callis then offered Jericho a chance to join the Don Callis family. So Jericho was looking to confirm that Callis is asking him to join a faction. So Jericho ended up saying that he doesn't join factions. He creates them. So Jericho ended up asking Callis, if you're asking me to join this faction, I've got one word in response. Maybe. So Jericho ended up stepping out of the ring and left everybody confused. But Don Callis was, a little bit happy there. So pretty much that was basically how the segment ended. But I don't know about you guys, but this did not make no sense whatsoever. I mean, Jericho, saying maybe he wants to join Don Callis' family. And Jericho is already in a faction. He's with the Jericho Appreciation Society. So why would he join Don Callis' family? I think Jericho's going to give us some time. And then when Don Callis says to Jericho, oh, are you still going to join the Don Callis family? Jericho might respond to a no, maybe. So, but like I said, it didn't make no sense for, Jericho to possibly say maybe to Don Callis when he's already in a faction. So, that was that. Overall, I thought this was a good segment here. Jericho, coming out there saying, oh, it's time to become the best version of himself. So Jericho will have to prove that we're going to get the best version of him ever. And then we had a video package. It was showcasing CM Punk taking on Samoa Joe this Saturday on AEW Collision, which is a match in the making for many years. So they also talked about Ricky Starks has a whole different set of issues to contend with as he ends up taking on Powerhouse Hobbs in the semifinals of the Owen Hart Foundation tournament. So that should be a good match. Powerhouse Hobbs versus Starks. CM Punk versus Samoa Joe. Looking forward to that. So then we went backstage. Renee Paquette checked in on with Roderick Strong. Roderick Strong ended up taking on Samoa Joe this past Saturday on Collision. So Adam Cole arrived to check in on Roderick Strong as well. So Adam Cole got interrupted by a text from MJF and was prompting Adam Cole to head out for the match. So that was that. Roderick Strong and Adam Cole, they're, very good friends. And then we had MJF end up coming out. MJF came out to the stage and he cut his music and he waited for Adam Cole to arrive. So Adam Cole came out. Both MJF and Adam Cole ended up heading down to the ring. And MJF, he was actually giving high fives to people in the floor seats, in the front row. I'm like, what's with this MJF that we're getting here? This is not the MJF that we know. So Matt Menard and the Butcher were already in the ring. So the match got underway, which the match itself, it was okay. Wasn't perfect or great by any means, but it was okay. This was, of course, the Blind Eliminator Tag Team Tournament Quarterfinals match. Match started off with Adam Cole and MJF discussing who's going to start the match. And it led to Matt Menard and the Butcher blindsiding both Adam Cole and MJF. So MJF and Matt Menard started things off. Matt Menard ended up attempting to get one over on MJF, but MJF ended up catching Matt Menard with a thumb to the eye to Menard. So we had MJF end up locking in an abdominal stretch on Menard, and he had trying to get Adam Cole to give him a hand for leverage, but to no avail. So MJF ended up trying to egg Adam Cole on a little bit because he ended up getting the crowd, a little bit hyped up. So Matt Menard ended up escaping from the abdominal stretch, and he had turned things around on MJF. Matt Menard tagged in the Butcher. He kept going at it with MJF, and then Dynamite went to commercial. So then when Dynamite came back from the commercial, Butcher ended up reaching for some leverage from Matt Menard, who was distracting the ref. So MJF ended up forcing his way out of a abdominal stretch hold. So Matt Menard had MJF locked in the same hold. MJF ended up calling for Adam Cole to help. Cole ended up pointing out the Butcher, which stopped the hold when MJF ended up escaping out of that. So the Butcher ended up getting a tag in, and he cut MJF off from tagging in Adam Cole. So Butcher then tagged in Matt Menard. MJF finally got the tag to Adam Cole. Adam Cole came in. He delivered a neckbreaker on Menard. And then we had the Butcher end up delivering a double clothesline to MJF and Adam Cole. So we had Matt Menard end up fighting back. MJF ended up calling for a tag, but Adam Cole ended up refusing. He ended up hitting the boom, and he ended up going for the cover. And there you go. MJF and Adam Cole ended up winning the match. So Cole hit the boom on Matt Menard. So MJF and Adam Cole are advancing in the Blind Eliminator Tag Team Tournament. Post-match, MJF called for his music to be cut. And he got the crowd to make some noise. MJF ended up telling Adam Cole to do the thing. And he ended up putting over the "we're better than you, baby," the catchphrase. So MJF ended up saying that he wants to do another bro session with Adam Cole. Adam Cole ended up accepting that. So MJF ended up setting up an impromptu birthday party for Adam Cole. Because, of course, today is Adam Cole's birthday. Happy birthday, Mr. Bebe. So Adam Cole ended up trying to shut this all down because, MJF was like, happy birthday! And then we got streamers flying out. We had, security guys come out there. One of them had a birthday cake in hand with a candle. So Adam Cole tried to shut this all down. MJF ended up insisting Adam Cole to make a wish, on, the candle. And of course, MJF ended up singing happy birthday to Adam Cole. And MJF, I say, he's a very good singer, here from, what we saw by him singing happy birthday to Adam Cole. So, of course, eventually Adam Cole blew out the candle. MJF ended up trying to playfully shove Adam Cole's face into the cake, but Adam Cole turned it around on MJF. He ended up shoving MJF's face into the cake. So Adam Cole ended up saying, with all sincerity, that he appreciates the birthday bash. He ended up saying to MJF, thank you, my friend. And then Adam Cole ended up leaving the ring. And pretty much that was basically that. But it was funny when Adam Cole ended up shoving MJF's face into the cake. And MJF's face was all with frosting from the cake. Adam Cole takes his finger, with the frosting that was on MJF's face, and then he licks the frosting. I thought that was funny. But I thought this was a, pretty, funny, segment here. But this is something that you would see, WWE doing on Monday Night Raw, but, painfully cringe and bad. But it brought some, funniness in it. Yeah, so that was that. And then we went backstage. Renee Paquette was with Dr. Britt Baker, DMD, which I'm surprised she wasn't out there, for her baby's birthday. So Renee checked in with Britt Baker ahead of her match against Ruby Soho. Renee was asking what Britt Baker has to say about the comments Ruby Soho made last week. Britt Baker ended up telling Renee that Ruby lied last week, stating that there are two things she can never take away. Britt ended up saying that she will always be the face of this division, and she will always be the first ever Women's Owen Hart Cup winner. Britt Baker ended up saying that she might just have to win the whole thing again. Britt then also said that it's a shame that her and Ruby meet in the first round this time. So that was what Britt Baker had to say. And then as Dynamite came back from the commercial, Renee Paquette was now with the Jericho Appreciation Society. So we saw Jericho, Daniel Garcia, and Sammy Guevara. So Daniel Garcia and Sammy Guevara were questioning Jericho's maybe that he made earlier in the night. Maybe of Jericho joining Don Callis' family. So Renee ended up revealing that Daniel Garcia and Sammy Guevara have been paired up in the Blind Eliminator Tag Team Tournament. To which Jericho ended up saying is great because it may be time to determine a new leader since Daniel Garcia and Sammy Guevara can be with him forever. So that was that. And then we had the Women's Owen Hart Foundation tournament quarterfinals match. Britt Baker, Dr. Britt Baker, DMD, versus Ruby Soho. Britt Baker ended up making her way out first. And then Ruby Soho ended up coming out. She was accompanied by Saraya and Toni Storm, of course. Better known as the Outcasts, or the Borecasts, as I would say. And this was a solid women's match here. So we had Baker and Soho. They were trading holds. Britt Baker ended up taking Soho down. Soho was in control with a side headlock on Baker. Baker ended up taking Soho back down. Soho ended up escaping to the outside to take a breather. The crowd was behind Britt Baker here. So Ruby Soho headed back into the ring to go after Britt Baker. So they were trading holds again. Britt Baker ended up taking the upper hand until Ruby ended up sending her to the ropes. So Britt Baker came back and delivered a shoulder tackle, which sent Ruby down to the canvas. Britt Baker then hit the ropes. She ended up catching Ruby with a sling blade, which was followed up by a neck wringer, which forced Ruby to head to the outside again. So Ruby ended up dragging Britt Baker out of the ring. And so we had Saraya and Toni Storm end up confronting Britt Baker. And then Ruby ended up taking Britt Baker down with the STO to the floor. And then Dynamite went to commercial. So then as Dynamite came back from the commercial, Britt Baker was in charge of the match, was in control. Britt Baker ended up hitting a few forearms to Ruby Soho. She then took Ruby down with a neck breaker. And Ruby got back up and she ended up stomping her foot, hitting a big right hand to Britt Baker. Britt Baker ended up hitting a swinging neck breaker to Ruby Soho, and she ended up going for the cover, to which Ruby Soho ended up kicking out. Britt Baker then grabbed the glove. She slipped it on. She ended up staring down Saraya and Toni Storm on the outside. She turned her attention to Ruby Soho, and Ruby Soho ended up rolling Britt Baker up. Britt Baker ended up kicking out. So Toni Storm then got involved. Toni Storm ended up grabbing Britt Baker's foot. And then we had Ruby Soho end up hitting a Sagital suplex. So Ruby Soho ended up going for the cover, to which Britt Baker ended up kicking out. Ruby then headed up to the top. She was looking to go for a double foot stomp to Britt Baker, but Britt Baker rolled out of the way. Britt Baker ended up hitting a thrust kick, and she ended up rolling it into a backslide on Ruby Soho. So Britt Baker ended up turning the near fall on Ruby Soho into the lockjaw, and Saraya ended up distracting the ref. So Toni Storm ended up holding up the Owen Hart Foundation Tournament women's title, and Ruby ended up slamming Britt Baker into that title. And so Ruby ended up going for the cover, and Britt Baker ended up kicking out. So Ruby was furious that Britt Baker ended up kicking out of that. So Ruby was looking to go for the lockjaw on Britt Baker. Britt Baker was fighting out of that. She ended up getting to the ropes. So Ruby ended up rolling back to stop that, but Britt Baker ended up catching Ruby with the lockjaw. Ruby ended up struggling as Toni Storm and Saraya ended up pulling Ruby out to stop the lockjaw. So Britt Baker was dealing with Toni Storm and Saraya on the outside. She headed back into the ring. Ruby ended up catching Britt Baker in a pinning combination, which had leverage from Toni Storm and Saraya. So pretty much that was that. Ruby Soho ended up winning the match, and she is now advancing in the Women's Owen Hart Foundation Tournament, all thanks to leverage from Toni Storm and Saraya. Post-match, Ruby Soho ended up escaping to the ramp with Saraya and Toni Storm, and we had Sky Blue end up coming out. Of course, next Ruby Soho is going to be taking on Sky Blue in the tournament, in the semifinals. So Sky Blue ended up staring down Ruby Soho. Ruby backed away, and she ended up leaving. Sky Blue had a smile on her face, and that was that. But Sky Blue, we all know she's going to be losing the semifinals match to Ruby Soho. Overall, it was a solid match between Britt Baker and Ruby Soho. Main event, Kenny Omega versus Wheeler Yuta. This was a good match here. Omega was still taped up from his match with Will Ospreay at Forbidden Door. So Yuta was in control early on in the match, and he was beating down on Omega. Omega ended up turning things around, and he was laying in some stomps on Yuta in the corner. Yuta then turned it around. He ended up being sent into the corner by Omega. So Yuta was dropped to the canvas twice by Omega, and Omega ended up going for the cover, and Yuta ended up kicking out. Omega stayed on the attack on Yuta. So both guys ended up exchanging strikes on each other. Omega lifted up Yuta for a rolling forward slam, and that ended up hurting Omega, and that gave Yuta an opening to strike hard at Omega. He ended up taking Omega down with a drop kick from the corner, and then a dive to the outside. Yuta got to his feet before bringing Kenny Omega up. He ended up sending Omega into the barricade twice, and Yuta ended up breaking up the rest count. So we had Yuta end up following it up with a big neck breaker to Omega on the floor. And then we had Yuta end up sliding back to the ring. Omega slowly got back to a vertical base, and then he got up to the apron. He started trading blows with Yuta. He was looking to go for a suplex to Yuta, but Yuta ended up hitting the elbow to Omega instead. So Yuta ended up hanging Omega up on the top rope. Yuta ripped the cover off the middle turnbuckle, and he ended up exposing the steel. So Yuta ended up driving Omega's head into the exposed steel, and then Dynamite went to commercial. So then when Dynamite came back from the commercial, Yuta was still in control of the match. He kept going to work on Omega's head and neck, and we had Omega end up driving his knees into the back of Yuta. Omega was fighting back as he got to his feet, and we had the ref end up counting because both Omega and Yuta were down. So we had both men were able to get back to their feet. They were exchanging strikes at each other. Omega then delivered a Fisherman Buster to Yuta, to which he ended up going for the cover, to which Yuta ended up kicking out. Omega set up for the V-trigger, but he was sent to the ropes by Yuta. He ended up getting dropped down to the canvas by Yuta. So Yuta ended up going for the cover, and Omega ended up kicking out. Yuta then headed to the turnbuckle. He climbed up to the top before Omega ended up intercepting him. Omega ended up setting Yuta up on the top turnbuckle, and Omega delivered a big superplex, which sent Yuta down to the canvas, which that was a really good superplex delivered by Omega. So Omega ended up going for the cover, and Yuta ended up kicking out. Omega ended up bringing Yuta to his knees, but he was hit with an elbow strike from Yuta. So Omega then ended up hitting a hard chop, which sent Yuta into the ropes. Yuta ended up coming back, and he ended up going for the cover on Omega, and Omega ended up kicking out. So Yuta got that near fall off of a German suplex. So we had Yuta end up going for another German suplex to Omega, and Yuta was going for a third German suplex, and then Omega ended up sending Yuta into the corner. Yuta fought back, but he was then sent to the corner, only to catch Omega with a waistlock. Omega ended up fighting out of the German suplex, and he hit a knee to Yuta's back. And then Omega followed up with the two Snapdragon suplexes. Yuta fought out of a hold by Omega, but Omega delivered a V-trigger to Yuta. So we had Omega end up looking to go for the one-winged angel to Yuta, but Yuta fought out of that. So we had Omega end up hitting another V-trigger to Yuta. Omega ended up going for the cover, and Yuta kicked out. So Omega was ready to finish it off with another V-trigger, but Omega was stopped by Don Callis rushing to ringside. So the ref had to deal with Don Callis as well as officials. And then Takeshita, Konosuke Takeshita, ended up running into the ring, and he ended up attacking Omega. So we had Yuta end up going for the cover, and Omega ended up kicking out. Yuta headed to the turnbuckle. Omega ended up intercepting Yuta with a one-winged angel. So Omega ended up going for the cover, and there you go. Kenny Omega ended up winning the match. Post-match, Claudio Castagnoli ended up rushing into the ring to beat down Omega. Takeshita ended up joining in, and then we had the Young Bucks and Hangman and Page. They came rushing down to the ring with some chairs. Claudio ended up getting hit with the BTE trigger, and they had Page end up hitting Claudio with the chair. The Dark Order then rushed to the ring, then ended up pulling the chair away, and then, that's how Dynamite went off the air. But overall, it was a pretty good match between Yuta and Omega here. Chaos at the end of Dynamite with Claudio coming in there, and Takeshita, and then the Elite, Bucks, and also Hangman and Page and the Dark Order. Just a chaos end to Dynamite. But overall, I thought it was just a very mid-show tonight. But anyways, that's it for the AEW Dynamite review. Thank you all for watching. Hope you all enjoyed this review. Definitely give the video a thumbs up. comment, subscribe, and until the next video, which will be the SmackDown and AEW Rampage review on Friday, I'll see you all later.